All right, this is what I want to close on. This is my favorite part of the story. So we see things that Jesus had zeal for, the scriptures, the people, the house of God. But you know what his zeal manifested in? He made a weapon out of it. Hey, oh, you best believe I'm about to preach this. He made a weapon out of it. So it says that he goes and he gets cords of rope and he puts them together and makes a whip out of it. Now, I don't know what those ropes were for, but I wonder, this is just my speculation, on if those ropes were the ropes that were used to bring the cattle in for the sacrifices. And so those cattle had been sold, so they took the rope off and gave it to whoever the highest bidder was, and there was just ropes that were laying there that were not being used anymore. And so Jesus sees this, but before he does anything, he goes and makes a weapon first. So he goes and he's probably silently no one knows what he's doing, right? No one knows what Jesus is doing, but he's seething and he's sitting there and he's just braiding this rope together. And he's just getting this weapon ready to go. And when he finally gets it, maybe goes whoosh a few times and makes sure it's actually going to work. And then he starts to go to town, right? And I don't know if he hit anybody. He may have. We don't know. The scene was probably chaotic. He may have gotten a few people on the legs or something. But he clears out the temple space. Well, what does this mean for us? When you have zeal, you need to fashion a weapon. You need to fashion a weapon. And this is what I mean by that. For some of you, it's time for you to fashion a radical prayer life. For some of you, it's time to fashion a routine of evangelism. For some of you, it could be fashioning a book that needs to be written. It could be fashioning a small group. It could be, are you catching what I'm saying here? Because in your zeal, you need to fashion something that you're going to take to accomplish the mission with. You need to build something. You can't just go in without a weapon. So if God's called you to do something, you're going to have to fashion something to take in with you, because that's going to be your authority that you're going to use to implement that zeal. And so it's time. You need to hear me, Access Church. It's time that we need to start fashioning weapons in this house, because God has work for us to do, and we need weapons to go and do the work with. The drive-through prayer, that's a weapon that we've fashioned, right? Because Caleb and I, we've been spending time planning this thing. We've been making calls to people, getting permission, figuring out what we're going to need, figuring out how we're going to train people, what signs are going to be. What are we doing? We're fashioning weapons. Because God's called us to Glen Ellen. And so we're putting something together that's going to do destruction to the kingdom of darkness. And every single one of you, you have a weapon that God's saying, I need you to put this thing together, because you're going to do destruction to the kingdom of darkness. Amen.